I'll never forget that we ran back to the Borgata after we made that score, hit a daily double, ended up getting back about $850 or something, but needed it desperately to avoid going to the cash machine. And it's always a little sad when you're among the 11 or so people that are lined up at the various ATMs around any casino destination at 12:01 because it's a new day. You can get new cash, but you might be out of it before you even get to breakfast. It's worth having these limits, I guess, on your ATM card. No, Lubie? Like, what's the maximum you could draw off your ATM card if you put
usually 500. It's usually 500.
Okay,
I don't know if it's around.
At a nickel somewhere.
Yeah.
That category. And lately, my withdrawals have been frequent and even more generous.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Don't we all need to just get on a roll? Hey, good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. Jeff DeForest, the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubitz here on South Florida Live and with you until 9 o'clock Eastern today. Later on in the program, we'll get into some NFL activity with Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars, who's going to join us on this Tuesday morning around 8:30. But were it not for hypocrisy, Lubie, I don't know that sports talk could exist. There's speculation, I guess, with gambling now, and you have any number of people that have never gambled in their lives that are telling you what to bet on and how to go about your business and money management, and they're talking about all these things that they never really experienced. And that's what's in vogue right now. But beyond that, if it wasn't for hypocrisy and speculation, this would be kind of an empty business. It'd be pretty tough. We'd be reading transactions every day. Well, look at that. The Braves sent down so-and-so. And, it would get down to real minutia. But with the hypocrisy that exists, there's plenty to talk about. And certainly that's the word that's being thrown about and bannered about the National Football League. Although it's kind of interesting because was this collectively bargained that an independent arbitrator would end up deciding these disciplinary cases? I believe that to be true, that this was part of the collective bargaining agreement that in these situations, post Ray Rice and some of the other things that have happened, that instead of Roger Goodell being the ultimate authority and the person and the NFL people hearing these disciplinary cases, they would go before an independently assigned arbitrator, in this case, a former federal judge. And she was the one that issued the ruling about the 6-game suspension of Deshaun Watson. And everybody is laughing at that, saying, oh my God, what kind of message is that from the NFL? And it's time everybody has a soapbox today, Lubie. Even you, which is good.
I joined the break yesterday to jump on the soapbox. Something I didn't realize I was that passionate about. We talked about for 20 minutes.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, once he signed that contract, Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland Browns, where he's going to make $250 million, guaranteed most of it, and he's going to make it no matter what. So if he sits out 6 games and loses $345,000, or sits out the entire season and comes back next year, still, I mean, he's in a situation where it's not really punitive, is it? If you knew that at a young age you could leave your business for a year, but you were going to come back and make $250 million in a very short period of time, and then have the rest of your life to either, spend it and enjoy it, or even get involved in another career, I don't know how badly you would feel about having to take the 1 year off. I mean, maybe you would look at it like, okay, good. I've been taking hits since I was in Pop Warner. I've been doing this for a long, long time. As long as I don't lose my competitive edge, I'm going to, prosper, and I'll sit out a year and take it easy. Maybe even, learn something while I'm observing what goes on out there without having to play. And I'll come back. I'll be an even better player. I don't know that they really could have hurt Deshaun Watson that much by giving him the other 11 games of this suspension, which everybody was calling for, as if that's somehow what was going to qualify as ultimate justice. I mean, if they really wanted to hurt the guy, they would have suspended him for 5 years and said, you know what, if you're good enough to come back after that, holy Michael Vick, I mean, what are we talking about? Then, then come back and try to make a career of it. But in the meantime, we don't want your sorry ass representing how we feel about women in our league. I mean, how could they possibly have hurt? Even if they suspended him for a year, would it really have been that harmful to Deshaun Watson's career? No, because he already had this thing lined up, and it was set up perfectly for him, where, as you said when we were talking before the show, Lubie, that what does he lose? He loses $345,000 Out of 200 and whatever it is, 70 million, is that what it is? It's like 220, 270, something like that.
230 million or something like
So
that.
some ridiculous amount of money. People were lined up at gas stations and convenience stores, in the quest of a 1 in 300 million chance that they would hit for $1 billion and or get some piece of that thing, which you had any number of people that cashed $1 million. Would you feel badly? That's one of those things that happens at the track, right? You had 5 numbers and you didn't have like the Mega Million ball. So instead of getting 1.2 billion, you ended up with $1 million. And it's like the guy at the track that hits for like $2,000. He says, "Oh my God, I could have had to try too. I would have made 5."
You never focus on the win; you focus on the loss.
Right. I'm like, hey, shut the fuck up. Just get your $2,000. Why don't you buy a round of drinks for the people at the bar, huh? Quit crying.
You've been losing for weeks.
It's never good enough.
Never.
But bottom line is, and you gave a couple of great examples. This Calvin Ridley, who bet on games while he wasn't even playing. He was injured. He wasn't involved in the team's activities, so it wasn't like he was out there going to drop a pass on purpose so he could throw a game. He was betting actually on his own team, Mr. Pete Rose,
to win.
And if he he's doing something that they're encouraging at every possible moment. That there isn't a second that you don't see something about gambling. While watching an NFL game or any sporting event, for that matter. I mean, just any sport. When Martina, I still can't get over that, Navratilova was speculating as to who would win the first game of a doubles match on the FanDuel sports desk for the tennis channel. Martina!
Okay.
How sacred can you get than to have Martina Navratilova shilling for some betting site, speculating who's going to win the first game of a doubles match that nobody would ever watch in a million years? Early round doubles match in a tennis tournament involving some Scribinis, and she's saying, "Well, you know what? I really like the people who were serving in this first game." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks, Martina. I'm going to call my Russian bookmaker and plunge on that right now." But the hypocrisy, Ridley out for a year for like a minor. I mean, what was an innocuous amount of money, just an insignificant amount of money that he was betting. It would be like us betting maybe $15 on a game.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you can't work for a year. That's crazy, insane. And maybe they issued a guy a warning. I guess he had already been warned, and it was well known throughout the league that the NFL didn't want its players and personnel betting on football games, although it was perfectly okay for them to recommend that you bet on them yourself, and they didn't mind if these guys were betting on virtually anything else. Right? He could have been betting 20-team soccer parlays, unders, and they would have said, "No problem, Cal. I mean, that's great. You don't have a gambling problem. What you have is, a spirit of joie de vivre. You're embracing what's good in life, and that is having money bet on virtually every move of a ball and or every motion that's made in a sporting event." Ricky Williams, how many? He basically was kind of forced out of football, right, for smoking weed.
Yep.
We saw Josh Gordon. His career literally went up in smoke because he couldn't avoid testing positive for marijuana, and I don't know if it was other substances, but seemed to me like the guy had a problem smoking weed, and he ended up getting like Brittany Griner treatment.
Yep.
Right, where you're out of the league, man. I mean, it wasn't quite a Russian prison, but they didn't let this guy have much of a career after that, and he was always in a jackpot. And there are a lot of negative aspersions go along with a guy who's being suspended because the reason goes out the window. You just realize, oh yeah, that guy's a bad guy. He's been suspended for like 2 years.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate. Personally, I don't know that they could have hurt Deshaun Watson once they allowed him to sign that deal prior to any determination being made. And the Cleveland Browns, of course, I mean, is Lombardi rolling over in his grave thinking, how could you do that? Winning isn't everything if you're involved in this sort of activity. You think old Vince would have changed his tune? I'm not sure.
It feels like football people. I mean, look, people weren't running to sign Watson, so I guess it tells you, or trying to trade for him. So it tells you people were sort of in lockstep outside of the Browns.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It does feel like football people, even on this, were sort of like,
Well, and the NFL has gone way out of its way, and obviously has a campaign going to try and initiate women towards enjoying football, and they're getting them involved and buying product, and they take great pride in the fact that they've been making these moves, to try and integrate women more into management and into coaching and all of these different things to try and bring about some level of equality with women and or at least embrace them as being a big part of the success of the National Football League. And it seems like in every one of these incidents, they kind of go in the exact opposite direction. Although, well, once again, I think, if the NFL, do they go ahead and appeal this now? They have 3 days to appeal the ruling. And the NFL Players Association said, man, we're good with that, because they were probably thinking the guy was going to get at least a year's suspension.
Yeah.
But it reeks of hypocrisy, and it's unfortunate. And the inequality in terms of the way suspensions are handed out for various offenses. Ridley's gambling offense pales in comparison to whatever strangeness was involved in the whole Deshaun Watson thing. There was something you would have to say that was slightly abnormal about his behavior and with regard to women. But would you at least agree that the evidence shows that?
I think there's different, and the professor and I have talked about this. I don't think every crime is equal, and I do think there is a difference between a guy who, Darren Sharper, who knows drugging women and raping them, to no woman accused Watson of that.
Yeah.
So I won't just lump him in the same place as those people. But again, he's with a team. They have a masseuse. He can go to any place. My wife gets a massage weekly. He can go to any massage parlor. He has plenty of money. The fact that he's going to this underground woman through Instagram and it's over 60 women, it's a little strange. Now, again, supposedly the woman knew, the women knew. Okay, fine. That's why there isn't any criminal charges, because it's in a gray area. But it's still, it's a little hinky. It's a little weird. And it's gone on for like 2 years. So to me, no, you weren't going to punish Watson. Once the Browns gave him a contract, he's good. But the idea was just the principle of the whole freaking thing. You're going to go on this long and give him six games with 17 games. And their division isn't what it was. The Steelers are a question mark. Look, the Bengals are better. The Ravens are solid. But both the Ravens and Steelers are question marks. And the Browns are loaded, literally loaded. If the quarterback just doesn't totally ruin everything, they should be able to win 2 of the 6 games. So they can come back with a chance to make the playoffs.
They have Jacoby Brissett set to start.
He's horrendous. But
I don't know if he's horrendous.
He's a turnover guy.
He's somewhat competent as a backup.
Exactly. He's not going to light it up, but he's not turnover guy, right? They have a good defense. They have a good run game. Yeah. They brought back Landry. They brought in Amari Cooper and Njoku, who's a really solid tight end. If the quarterback just doesn't get in their way, they can win a couple games. So you suspend him, but they still can make the playoffs. To me, it should be punitive to the Browns. It's not going to be punitive to Watson, but the Browns were the one team that went and made this deal. They should get penalized at least a year. 6 games is it's stupid. It's just okay. All that
consequential. Yeah. Do they end up reducing that? Does he appeal that? After 4 games, and didn't they let Ben Roethlisberger back in after 3?
Yeah.
Even though it appeared that he was involved in an egregious assault of a woman, and that was kind of overlooked. Now the hypocrisy mounts up though and piles up even deeper when you're talking about the NFL. Here's Bob Kraft, and you mentioned this, Louie. Bob Kraft is caught in a sting while the police are not investigating Bob Kraft, but he just happens to walk into a place that the police are investigating because of sex trafficking. And some hideous, just absolutely diabolical, assertions that were being made about this massage parlor. Kraft walks in there and he walks out, no problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And the NFL has, I would imagine, in this case, they're overstepping the authority of law enforcement, because there were no criminal charges filed against Deshaun Watson. And so if that was going to be the criteria, if he was guilty of criminal acts or not, he obviously is not guilty of criminal acts, at least in the eyes of whoever was maybe going to prosecute or attempting to prosecute that case in Texas. No, 2 grand juries both passed on that. And the truth is, and unfortunately, I know this from experience, any lawyer will tell you, a grand jury can indict this pen if you ask him to.
Exactly.
If the prosecutors, they can indict an inanimate object. They almost always sign off on an indictment. If and filing charges and prosecution, if the prosecution is in front of a grand jury to begin with, very rarely there's a grand jury saying, "Man, I don't see nothing." So that's already a little bit strange, and saying that, then you're thinking, all right, well, there really was no basis then for a criminal trial, because the prosecutors couldn't even get this by a Texas grand jury, 2 of them. Both passed El Paso, and it doesn't happen very often because you'll see charges brought, and then a negotiation would take place between the prosecutors and Watson's attorneys, like whether or not there was going to be any kind of a plea agreement or anything of that nature. But the indictment is almost always a certainty in criminal cases. So that probably lined up well in terms of Watson's defense that he shouldn't be suspended at all. But if you are going to take a separate category and say, well, NFL players and NFL personnel are going to be held to a higher standard, then why wasn't Bob Kraft held to that higher standard?
It was actually sort of worse because he was going into a seedy spa, getting handies,
which he frequented a lot. That's the other thing.
A lot.
They all knew him there. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Right?
Yep.
All of the Asian girls
in the middle of a sex trafficking ring. Like, to me, that's worse. He's a billionaire. Watson was at least some 22-year-old kid. He's a billionaire, grown old man. Like, he should know better. And he gets nothing. It was like, okay.
They don't even look into it. Nothing. Yeah. Charges were dropped on a technicality, and, nothing really came of it. But the NFL said nothing about it. Zero. Roger Goodell never questioned whether Bob Kraft should be up for any kind of discipline. Even though in this case, I mean, they agonized over this for over a year now.
Years, yeah.
This whole thing with Deshaun Watson. And then most people were anticipating that they would, give the sort of token obligatory 1-year suspension. He'd come back, he'd make his money, and all would be forgotten. Yeah. And, it turned out to be maybe the worst case scenario. Although, you do have to continue to, put the little asterisk there and say that this wasn't the NFL's decision on its own. That this was done by an independent arbitrator who was hired by both sides to do exactly what she was supposed to do, which was supposedly be objective about this, although people are dissatisfied that she wasn't objective enough.
It's too objective.
Right? I mean, you have it in your head all the time. Adelaide Bird scores the fight. Like, really? Canelo's in the hospital there. The other guy's jumping up and down in the ring on the ropes there and going, yeah. And meanwhile, he's a loser, 118, 110. Go figure. All right, so that was a big thing, and it's going to spark a lot of conversation. But the end result is that this guy's got an inconsequential suspension by most people's belief. And we'll be back in the league. He'll have 11 games to go ahead and see what he can do with the Browns this year. If their eyes were on next year, thinking that he might be suspended for a whole season, they get to jump on that. Yep. And as you said, Lubie, they have enough, on paper, offensive personnel. They should be better. I always thought they should have been better when Baker Mayfield was quarterback of the team. They should have been better, right? Yeah. I mean, at one time they had like Odell Beckham out there catching passes. My God. Yeah, and Jarvis Landry.
Yep.
So, you would think that they would get more out of what talent they have on the field. We'll see what happens there. Interesting. We always tease Tony Segreto about the thing where he would go through the schedule. We were talking about it yesterday, where it's impossible to predict what's going to happen in Week 15 of the National Football League season when you're looking at the preseason schedule and you're saying that's a win, that's a loss, that's a win, that's a loss. And a lot of people are doing that now because they're trying to decide what they're going to do with over-under totals.
Yeah. Season totals, yeah.
I don't have the patience necessarily. I mean, the only time we really exhibited that kind of patience, and it turned out to be agony.
Marlins.
Even the year that we won, finally, when we had the drive for 25 with the Marlins in the COVID-shortened 60-game season, that was the one time when we were dancing in the streets because it looked like they were easily going to eclipse that from the pace they were playing at all through the season. The other years when we had the over on like 71 and 75, it was such ugliness. And imagine how ugly it would be this year, which another lifeless, listless effort by the Miami Marlins last night against the lowly Cincinnati Reds, who seemed to own the Marlins. Certainly on the road they did. I guess they split a 4-game series recently, and the Marlins had snapped an 8-game losing streak on the road to the Cincinnati Reds. Holy Forbes Field. And then last night, they're sitting there 3-0 in the 9th inning. Looked like they might pull off a miracle. And they bring up on one of their offseason acquisitions. What's it, Stallings? Is that the name of the catcher?
Jacob Stallings, yeah, Jacob Stallings from the Pirates.
And he got a couple of hits recently, and I think he got his average above the Mendoza line, but it was another one of these Kim Ng acquisitions that's hovering right around 200, and he comes up with the bases loaded down 3-1. The Reds reliever was getting torched. I mean, he had nothing. throws a couple of meatballs right over the center of the plate, and this guy pops out to end the ball game, and that was it. Lose 3-1. Now what? 8 games under 500, late stage of the season, 2 months to go. Really nothing to write home about. There was some conversation that they would be involved, and the trade deadline is tonight. There was a lot of activity in Major League Baseball. Josh Hader. That was a strange trade, huh? Now was his contract up or something with Milwaukee? Why would Milwaukee, who's in the race?
Are they contending? I was going to say, I was like, maybe they're not contending. I haven't heard much about it.
I think, I think they're in pretty good shape. I could grab the standings here. But I thought they were right up there.
They're leading their division.
Yeah.
Does Hader suck now? Do they need
No, Hader's great. He has 28 saves. They traded him for a guy, though. They got back a guy from San Diego who has 27 saves on the season.
Oh, so they got another closer guy.
Yeah. I saw one Hader meltdown, but in general, when Hader comes into the game, I mean, it's over. It really is. It's like Diaz now with the Mets.
Yeah, he must be up for contract.
Maybe. I don't know, because they sent Hader and got back the Padres closer, which is kind of an odd thing, because the Padres closer, was having a pretty good season. He was right there, one save behind, as I said, Josh Hader. Now, is it more imposing to bring in Josh Hader out of the bullpen in the ninth inning, and your team has the lead? You would have to think yes, Lubie, right? It's kind of like when any great closer would come in. When Aroldis Chapman was on his game, I mean, you knew that nobody was even going to touch a ball. There was a pretty good chance he'd throw 9 pitches and strike out all 3 guys.
Pretty much.
And Hader is sort of in that boat. So that was odd, though, because it did include the Padres closer, and the team was in first place. So I don't know what the parameters of the thinking were for the Milwaukee Brewers in that case, but they sent like 4 guys to San Diego, and they got back they got back 4 guys, Milwaukee, and they sent Hader to San Diego. San Diego all in, and supposedly, still alive if there's any chance of Ohtani getting traded by the Angels, the Los Angeles Angels, then they're in the mix there with 2 other teams, right? Dodgers also interested. I would have liked to have seen Ohtani go to the Yankees, wouldn't you? It'd be pretty cool to see this guy, playing in New York. I don't know why. I just think that would have been like a really cool thing.
Rather Chicago than if you're talking about big city. Screw the Yankees.
But the Cubs aren't good enough. At least Ohtani could have been in like a World Series spotlight. Imagine.
Aren't the White Sox? Oh, they're not. The White Sox are okay. The White Sox are in the chase. They're in the AL wildcard chase.
Oh, you're talking about the White Sox. I'm talking about
just Chicago, the city. I don't care what team. New York has enough right now. The Yankees and the Mets are just drilling people.
Well, that's this year. I mean, they've had, the Yankees have been prominent now, in recent years. The Mets have been floundering, Lubie, for a long, long time, and they finally got it together. DeGrom pitches tonight, by the way. That's going to be their big trade deadline acquisition. Now, it's interesting, too, because I think you have to lay 300 to win 100 on the Mets tonight. Wouldn't this be the time to bet against the Mets? They've just won 8 in a row, and they bring DeGrom back, and DeGrom just got touched up a little bit in his AAA rehab start, and it was the only time that he was ineffective in the rehab starts that he made. I guess he was too overwhelming for the people that were down there playing for the Nashville Shrimp or whatever.
Yeah, single A. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, nephew. A little too much for them. DeGrom against the Nationals tonight. Now, the Nationals not a very good team. They're floundering at the bottom of their division and or near it. And they are in last place, right?
Yeah,
the Nationals. Last place in the East. You get plus 230 on the Nationals tonight. Okay. You have to lay 300 to win 100 on the Mets. The Mets have won 8 in a row. If they were ever going to lose, it would be with DeGrom not having it tonight. And he's has he had Tommy John also? He's starting to look like Tommy John, DeGrom, isn't he? He's morphing into Tommy John physically. I'm rooting for him, and I would like to see the Mets do something this year for the long-suffering Met fans that are out there. Our good friend Mike Nyman, Ira the Met fan. I mean, he deserves it, doesn't he? Guys up there in the high 80s, like the temperatures these days, and you're on borrowed time at that point. Which we do have to say a special hello, and I hope he's able to catch the show. To our good friend Andy, who back in the hospital again. Oh, my God. I don't know if he wants to release all details.
What's going on with him?
Nothing good, man. I mean, they gave him a standing 8 count when they picked him up.
Again.
But unfortunately, he wasn't standing at the time. So I had to shovel him into
Saw
an
him
ambulance
Thursday,
and
he was
take him off to
fine.
the hospital. Yeah. It comes and goes, man. I mean, look, you can't put a high enough price on your health, Mike Lubie.
Yeah, we don't take that. We take that for granted. A lot of people do much better financially, but they have a lot of shit wrong with them. So I
Oh,
guess
my
it's
God,
gonna be
yeah.
said that
In and out of hospitals all the
you
time.
are 71, and God, you haven't really dealt with anything. People
Nothing.
thought you were dead by now,
Yeah.
and you're just coasting.
Oh, I should have been dead by now.
today.
There's no question, man.
Like
All of that
Dennis.
coke in the early 80s, my God, I don't know what I was doing. And it was pure. I mean, right off the Colombian vine. It was crazy what was going on here in Miami. Everybody had it too. Like you'd walk into your boss, and he'd be doing coke with his secretary, on the desk there. And you're like, it was everywhere, right? Middle of the day, it didn't matter, right? You're at a radio station or a television station. Hey, you want to do a bump? Yeah, okay, no problem. Everybody's walking around whacked out of their minds. That was the early '80s here in South Florida. If you fell victim to that, some people had the discipline to stay out of it. I wish I had. Now looking back on it, I mean, it wasn't a pretty, scenario. And of course, when I guess it was a couple of years ago when I had that knee surgery, I had to go get a bunch of tests. And finally, a very credible heart doctor here in town looks at me and says, "Your heart is in perfect shape." And I said, "Well, did you mix up the X-rays or something? Because
You're expecting the opposite.
that's impossible. That's absolutely fucking impossible."
Like I was trying hard to really fuck myself up.
Oh my God! I mean, there were days, where you're up like 48 hours and you're
Oh
wired.
my
You're going, "I'm fine. I can go to work. I'm fine." People are talking to you, you're like totally paranoid. It was unbelievable. Anyway,
Anywho,
should have been suspended for that, right? Who am I talking sanctimoniously about? See, now I don't know that it matters. That's the thing with me with Deshaun Watson and all of this. I mean, people are going to be babbling about this for a long, long time. The Ray Rice thing kind of showed where Roger Goodell was at until the video came out. I mean, a 2-game suspension for this. We've seen other guys with absolutely heinous assaults and crimes against women, and it's overlooked. Is it just part of the whole football mentality, Lubie, like being a football guy, where you have like Urban Meyer and he's got this spousal abuser on his staff, but because he was a guy that he was introduced to by his idol, was like, oh, I don't want to do nothing about that.
I don't know. It seems to happen in football. I don't want to say a lot, but it seems to happen. It seems to happen in football. Like you'll see these coaches are just sort of allowed to. I didn't know. Really, you're.
I don't know nothing about nothing. Yeah,
you saw it. Your wife has texts.
It's potentially testimony. Yeah, I said, yeah, sure. Could be something going on there. So I don't know. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's sort of pointless to get all upset about this because it happens all the time. Not the sexual assaults that shouldn't be taking place, but with the National Football League, where you're sitting there and you're appalled at one of their disciplinary rulings, thinking how can you say on one hand that you're so involved with women's causes and you're standing up for they never know what to do though, right? Like with the kneeling issue with Colin Kaepernick and all of the subsequent things that happened after that with regard to players wanting to make statements about social injustice, which they have every right to do. I don't know. There's a time and a place for everything, I guess. What would you say, Lubie? I mean, if that was going to get people's attention and actually do some good, then I'm all for it, right? Where in general, I'm in spite of my liberal beliefs, I'm, they raise the flag. I salute. I'm very happy to be a citizen of the United States of America, right? Which
I agree. But I'm not I've always thought it wasn't my place to tell someone else what to do.
Yeah,
I thought that was the whole point of it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Freedom thing.
I don't agree with it, but
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you can make any kind of a statement. Look, civil disobedience has always been a part of the process of trying to have a democracy. Unfortunately, everything has gone haywire and completely out of control. So I don't even know how you would define civil disobedience anymore. Seems to me, people think of it, and all you can conjure up are images of some nutbag running into a mall and shooting them up with an AR-47, AK-47, and the government sitting there going, background checks. That's a lot of work for a guy to do at a gun show. Might have to check the guy's driver's license or something. Okay, yeah, you know what? Just give him the gun. This is what the world has come to. All right, a lot of activity, trading activity, Major League Baseball. Mike Lubie Lewitz, are you following any of this? I'm not sure that I can really report with any deep credibility about the significance of it. We do know that the Yankees acquired a bunch of pitching. They were worried about holes, both in their starting rotation. They were starting to melt down a little bit, and the bullpen. And they went out there, and Brian Cashman got whatever they thought they needed, which was great. Although not in the Juan Soto chase, which I'm not sure how heavy that is going to be pursued. When these teams put, like ridiculous parameters around what they want back for a player that they're obviously going to trade at some point, like a Kevin Durant or Mitchell, in the NBA, and Soto, I guess Ohtani. I'm not sure, what they'd want back for Shohei Ohtani, the Angels. But the deals just never happen, right? I mean, it's not happening for the end of the season. I mean, it's unrealistic what they were looking to reap back for this. And I don't know. It would have been nice to see a couple of these players go to contending teams. Seeing Ohtani on the Angels, it's unfortunate. Trout's out of the lineup there. I don't know. He says he's coming back, but it doesn't look so great. And, it was just a couple of years ago, they were all in on everybody, the Los Angeles Angels. All in on everybody, and now they want to get rid of Ohtani. I mean, can you imagine? What a turnaround, and what a turnoff for the fans to take, probably the most. Would you say who is Aaron Judge a bigger attraction than Shohei Ohtani if Ohtani's pitching and also in the batting order?
That's the thing is, Aaron Judge is really doing cool stuff, but Ohtani can do all of that from the plate and then be one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like, there's nothing like if Ohtani's pitching, you get to see him on both sides. There's nothing like that. In my lifetime, I mean, maybe if you grew up with Babe Ruth.
Got to go back to Babe Ruth, yeah.
Yeah, my lifetime, I would say my parents' lifetime, we've never seen that. A guy that does both and then is great at both.
You've had good hitting pitchers. I mean, there have been pitchers that have been used as pinch hitters. Bob Gibson was a great hitting pitcher. You didn't mind seeing him at the plate, even though, I don't know, was he going to hit like 340 for the season? No, but, he was very capable. And you've had pitchers that were capable of hitting home runs, but nothing like this. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this. You're right, since like the 1920s, Lubie. Got to go back to the Boston. And when he was playing in Boston, not even with the Yankees, right? They shoved him out in right field. Hey, babe. Let's put you somewhere where nobody hits the ball. What kind of fielder was the Babe? Was he any good? Does anybody recall?
I mean, I don't think
should check on some. Anybody in our audience actually go to a game where Babe Ruth was playing? If you did, congratulations. What are your health secrets?
Yeah, what would you be, 110? How is that even?
1927.
Wow. 20s? Like it's the 20s.
Russell was born in the 30s. He was 88, so he was born in 34. It's possible that we have some old geezer out there that and we have nothing but respect for you if you're still alive. Yeah, that was at a game where Babe Ruth was playing when they were a baby.
And you found us online and you're watching us on YouTube. That's a combination.
People they got their cell phone out there having a couple of brews before it's 7 o'clock. Yeah. Turn on that Defo Show.
Hundreds. I feel like
Lubie are really funny. Yeah.
We appreciate it.
All right, so, Yanks got some pitching. There were a couple of other things of significance. That Hadar deal kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought he was Elliot Ness, like untouchable. Josh Hadar with the Milwaukee Brewers, and you would imagine. But it's just so weird. They got a guy back that was right there with him, toe-to-toe in terms of saves this year. So very, very interesting. St. Louis seems to be in play for everybody. How did they do that? And, you also saw another piece of ugliness. I mean, the back end of that Robinson Cano contract where I think the Mets had to pay the guy $37 million or something this year. As remember, he signed like a 10-year deal. Who was that with? Seattle? That he signed a long-term deal, and then he's bounced around since. He's been a shell of himself, and he was designated for assignment. Still cashing $37 million. So when you're paying $11 for a hot dog, is there a correlation there, or is that just, the fact that you're a sitting duck when you're at a stadium or an arena and they don't care about price gouging or things of that nature? I mean, is this in any way a reflection of the salaries that are being paid?
No.
Because the enormity of the salaries in professional sports today, I don't know that anybody, I mean, you just wonder, is it all from broadcasting rights? and
They pay the bills.
merchandising, where this money is coming from, because it's coming from somewhere. Because the owners aren't losing any money. I don't know.
No.
Are the Marlins really swimming in a sea of red ink, or are they just making money hand over fist because of the escalation of the value of the franchise? Which it's hard to imagine that it's worth more than Bruce Sherman paid for it a few years later.
They're not making money like the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Cubs, but they're making money. No one's not making money.
Did you see the crowd last night? I tuned in. Actually, it was like the 8th inning, so people probably already went home. Although it was very early. Where they start this game at like 5 p.m. or something. Perfect. Let's start it at rush hour.
Going there.
You had like no shot to get there anywhere near game time, which was reflected in the number of people that were in the stands when I turned the game on. I mean, it's tragic, Lubie. August 1st yesterday, and there could have been 8 people in the grandstand. I respect the one lady that had the seat right behind home plate because she was there to the final pitch and she was cheering.
They had a chance. You should have stayed at the end.
That was one of those situations where the reliever was so bad that came in for the Cincinnati Reds, and he had just been shelled by the Marlins and given up a 3-run walk-off homer the last time he was in there to close out a game. When the Marlins came back with like a miracle and pulled off a win in Cincinnati like a week or so ago. Same guys on the hill, and everything except for the fact, could it have possibly been that Angel Hernandez was behind home plate last night?
No,
I want to say yes to that.
Really? That guy, he's still.
Oh man, there were a couple of call strike. And the other thing that really boggles my mind now about like Major League Baseball, when you're watching a guy, he's up there, he's hitting like 212, okay, which isn't even half bad if you look at the batting averages on all teams, even teams that are contending. I mean, have one guy maybe that it's hitting 300 and it's just slightly above, and then maybe a couple of guys in there above 275, and everybody else is hitting like 240.
Yep.
220.
Yep.
This is throughout Major League Baseball. But if you're a weak hitter, I mean, what was the one thing that every coach since you were in sub little league, since you were in T-ball, when the ball's sitting there on a tee, and they would tell you what, protect the plate. I mean, you can't just stare at a pitch that goes right down the middle of the plate, a mediocre fastball in there in the low 90s. I mean, literally, and I'm watching Marlin hitters with guys on base. They get first and second, nobody out, bottom of the ninth, and now you have the tying run coming to the plate here. They're down 3-0. Pitcher obviously doesn't have great stuff, and he's a guy that you just shelled and should be shell-shocked. He has like an earned run average that really does look like Dennis Erickson's blood alcohol level when he was caught that time sleeping at a stoplight in Palm Beach. Was that Erickson? That might have been.
That was, I think, her bud.
Oh, that was Tony Lewis. Yeah. Anyway, you get the picture. I mean, this guy was very vulnerable out there on the hill. It was almost as if Cincinnati, we were going to find an investigation that Pete Rose had money on the Marlins last night. And in honor of the fact that he's been, been treated unfairly by Major League Baseball in terms of being held out of the game forever for making bets now, which they're encouraging you to, go ahead and bet on the Marlins while they're down 3-0 in the 9th inning. Right? Odds are being posted. Hey, look at that. You get plus 1,200 if you want to bet these stinking, rotten, always getting shut out Marlins who can't, hit their way out of a wet paper bag.
Exactly.
Now, jump on it, people. Right? Have a guy dancing. Okay, here's your chance. We'll hold up the next pitch. That timeout. Money's coming in.
Throw the money in.
It'd be funny if Manfred himself was on the phone, like taking bets. Oh, yeah, okay. You want the Marlins? Yeah, plus 1,200.
He's
okay.
like screaming at people.
200 on it. Mo, we got 200 plus 1,200 on the
timeout.
Guy steps out of the box. Pitcher steps off the rubber. And the money comes pouring in. So, anyway, and then just some hard, at bats where guys, literally, 2 guys, I think, struck out looking in succession. Looking at a called third strike right down the middle of the plate. I mean, how do you not swing at that? How badly fooled could you be? That you don't even take a feeble attempt to get a bat on the ball. I mean, these are professional hitters. No wonder they're hitting. The Mendoza line is going to have to be lower. Did anybody hit 150 for their career?
Yeah.
Who? Choo-Choo Coleman? It'll be the Choo-Choo Coleman line. I think he hit like a career 189 or something along those levels. But he was a great defensive catcher, greatest low ball catcher ever to play the game. Anyway, feeble at bats, and very hard to watch this, Louis. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
if you
I
could
wouldn't
ever
try.
see a team in town that was just bottoming into a complete position of fan indifference,
Yeah,
it's the Miami Marlins in baseball, which
yeah,
we've wanted to embrace for how long? I mean, we wanted to get into this thing, and I mean, it doesn't even seem like it's years away. It seems like it's forever away that you're going to have a time where it's going to be exciting to be a Marlins fan. Now, I don't know. I mean, do teams in other cities find themselves in the same position? I guess there are some, and I don't know what the fans think about
Cleveland
that. But
A's, I
this was
guess.
a yeah, but this was a team that didn't have fans to begin with. The A's at least play representative baseball. The dark cloud there is that it wasn't a great market for some reason. While San Francisco is selling out every night, the A's draw flies,
Yeah.
and yet they've been one of the better franchises. Playing Billy Beanball there because. How the hell are they always in contention? They're pretty much the Rays of the West, the Oakland A's. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been very accomplished for the fact that they've been a
Years.
downtrodden. We have to get out of this place franchise forever. We have none of that here, though. There's no talk of like, wow, we got to get a new stadium. When will that surface? That the problem is the ballpark and where it's located, and so we need to build a new one, Lubie. And which politician will jump on board to spearhead the movement here? Still, one of the greatest Ponzi schemes ever, the Samson Lauria ownership of the Miami Marlins, which they purchased as the Florida Marlins. And then somehow, I mean, we're handed a situation where the team wins a World Series, and they did everything in their power to decimate what was going on after that. Although there were a couple of attempts, I guess, feigned attempts to actually try and do something. And none of it worked. Like nothing's ever worked. Going all the way back to, I guess, 2003 now. So you're talking about 19 straight years of total futility with no clear-cut path out of it. And, where do they stand? Do they have anybody? I mean, outside of Pablo, I guess, is still a member of the team. Everybody was saying he was going to be traded, which still might happen. Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
But what do they have? I mean, do they have anybody there that you would say, oh, my God, we have to keep this guy, Jazz Chisholm? Is he the one
But he's
guy?
hurt, and
And
now he has
Alcantara?
back issue, so he's going to miss pretty much the rest of this year. So you don't know what he's going to be coming back. And Alcantara, the one guy, even they were like, oh, he's untouchable. Well, that's good. At least someone's untouchable.
Yes. So you expected fully for him to be traded, but for what? I mean, what is it that they're going to try to piece together?
I don't know.
They don't have enough pieces to piece anything together. Is the problem? And it's not like you're looking at any of these guys. Every guy that gets up there is hitting like 213, Lubie, with 7 homers and 26 RBIs. Even our man Miggy, unfortunately, is like floundering at 244 for the season. So I mean, if you're not going to have power in your lineup, you really need to have guys that can hit the ball consistently. And the Marlins have neither, and then their pitching wasn't as good as they hoped it was going to be. Because aside from Alcantara, Pablo was having a good season until he got torched. They really have nothing, right? Nothing, Lubie. It's a sad state of affairs, my friend. Reflected by the fact that there were 3 people in the stands last night. Even if it was like the 8th inning. It was only like 9:30, maybe. Would they start that game at 6 or something? Not sure. I guess it went quickly because nobody hits.
It was a loser mentality. We said it at the time, and we were the home, so I couldn't push it so far. But when we'd be at the openings and Glenn Geffner, and then we would have Michon, and then we would have GM at the time, I forgot his name, Mike, whatever his name is. We
Mike
would
Hill?
be like, they'd be like, look, we're trying to build a farm system, and we're gonna get rid of legit superstars who are good now and affordable, except for Stanton, and get rid of them for young guys that maybe can be really good. And then we're gonna be the Astros and the Dodgers. No, you got rid of really good players for young guys who, like most of us thought, would turn out to be shit. And now you're in the same exact spot. Like now you have young arms that are hurt all the time because your training staff sucks, and you don't have hitters. Like Mish, who Mish is unbiased. Mish was like, "Look, their farm system sucks. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
They had real bats. Like in a league that's about bats, they had 4 bats. Ozuna since then has been legit. Yelich has been an MVP candidate. Stanton, look, when healthy, is still Stanton. Like, and they had a reason." Freaking Real Muto's been legit. He's going to be highly sought after again. Like, you brought those guys up. You made them something. And then you get rid of them for a bunch of prospects that have done nothing. Like, come on, man. Like,
0.
they're
Yeah.
gonna do it again. Like, you're not wrong. Like, if you're gonna have a loser mentality, it's worked 3 times. The Cubs, who have now back in that thing again, because it really doesn't work long term. The Astros and the Dodgers. Well, the Astros and Dodgers, the minute they had a chance, started spending, and all they do is spend now. So that loser crap was for like 2 years. They didn't like once saw that they had a chance, they went all in. Like the Marlins haven't done that.
No.
The Marlins with this rotation.
They would claim they're not in a position to do it, and
go screw yourself.
that's unfortunate. But it does seem like if you were looking for just complete and total indifference, that they have achieved that in a market that does want to embrace anybody that wins. I mean, the Miami Heat certainly have developed a fan base that's very solid. Panthers, unfortunately, I mean, this year didn't necessarily turn things around for them. They suffer at the box office, and it was always questionable. I don't know how many hours I spent on the air, Libby, over the years debating as these sports were being brought up as possibilities to come to South Florida. And it was all around the same period of time there, late 80s, early 90s.
Yep.
Yeah. And, people would call in one after another. Hey, you think it's going to make it down here? I mean, the people don't really care about hockey. I know we got all these freaks from Montreal. And you thought, well, I mean, it's possible, right? That you could get people excited about it, but they really haven't, accomplished that over. And in the beginning, I mean, it was wild. I remember, you wanted to be a part of the atmosphere when the team went to the Stanley Cup final that year. What was that, 96, 97? And that season, their third season, it was amazing. But that momentum gathered late in the year, and then it became a phenomenon. It was fantastic. I mean, we had that same sort of thing here. You have to go all the way back to 97, really, what was the World Series, where the entire city was all of a sudden rallying around Marlins baseball, and they were relatively new. But, they came back and they won another World Series improbably by doing exactly, I mean, they actually, under the direction, I guess, initially of the great Dave Dombrowski,
Yes. Yep.
they sold off all of these guys and he had acquired, and he's one of these guys that's all in. I mean, you talk about Holy Johnny Chan. This guy shovels all in. He did it everywhere that he's been. Right? He doesn't care. He's kind of got like a Pat Riley mentality towards the draft and things like that. I'll give you all the prospects you want. Just give me some veteran players that can win. I mean, he did it in Boston. He did it in Detroit. And he was all in here to win that 97 World Series with guys like, Lou and Bonilla and, bringing in Darren Dalton, who was on his last leg. And also, we weren't sure what planet he was on.
But also, Dombrowski was a part of bringing in Cabrera.
Yeah.
I think getting Derek Lee, or at least
he loved Derek Lee, Dave Dombrowski. He loved Derek Lee.
He was a part of getting Beckett, was a part of getting A.J. Burnett. Like, he was a part of getting the pieces. And what put him over the top that year, and no one talked about it when that move was made, and I was like, that's an interesting move, when they did a 1-year deal for Pud Rodriguez, who, set the RBI record that playoff run.
Yeah.
They went and spent on a guy that helped them that year. They put together a really strong bullpen, and that was a team that could win then. Like, that's what they were supposed to do now. They never did it. They never spent. This year they tried to spend and gave under. Like, Marte wanted to be here. Marte would probably change this lineup. Marte,
he's having a big year for the Mets, hitting 300. Yeah.
They offered him pennies, and he's like, okay. And he openly said, I want to stay there. And they weren't competitive. And they brought in Garcia and Soler, 2 guys, you were right, that were interesting signings, but neither was great. Neither was a guy that changed the needle. And look what they're doing.
Yeah.
They try to cheat.
I know. You remember this ball player, Gene Tennis? He was with the A's in the heyday of the A's, and he had a big World Series, right? But he was essentially like a 230 hitter that was going to get you 20 home runs a season, maybe, and do a lot of damage in key spots, in terms of being detrimental as a bat in your lineup. And, people all of a sudden became fascinated because he was a big World Series guy, that this guy was going to be some big-time player. But, he remained as he was, this Soler, he had a big World Series, but I don't know. He was like a 265 career hitter. If that, I think that was his highest average.
Yep.
And, if you're not going to be a monster home run and RBI producer, then, you need to at least do something, get on base a lot, get some key hits here and there. So I don't know. I mean, I thought there was an over fascination with this guy, to think that, whoa, that's gonna solidify your lineup. It was a movement. See, and that's the thing. It's kind of like the price of gas, Lubie, where it was $4.98 just like a month ago. So now you see it at like $3.89. You're like, holy shit! Wow, what a bargain, man! I think I'll just stop in and top off my tank. Maybe I'll even ask for full service so I can pay a few pennies more. But the truth is, you're paying $3.89 for like a gallon of gasoline that most people feel should be $1. So and that's what ends up happening. You're buying into like fool's gold, and so the standards that the team has set are so low at this point that I don't know. I mean, they used to talk about contraction. Remember that? The C word in sports, that they were just going to eliminate the Marlins franchise. Period.
Marlins were always you talked about it last week. The San Antonio, I remember that, the San Antonio Judge, and my favorite was when they trotted him out and people cheered him on. They're like, "All right, take him."
Yeah.
Thank you. It was backfired on Loria.
Yeah, Loria. What a schmank that guy.
Never mind.
I still picture him selling Dayglow Jesus paintings underneath $5.95 there with David Sampson selling Virginia honey. Which wasn't authentic, Although it's so funny too, because for Sampson, a guy that literally, I mean, that was one of the great Ponzi schemes ever, wasn't it? They bought the team with like I don't know, was it even with real paper? That this might have been a more bogus purchase than even when that guy bought the Islanders, that didn't own the shirt on his back, and became the owner briefly. Forget the guy's name, but famous sports criminal activity.
Okay, so before we go to break, the Visser Mama's been mocking us, as she does. I mean,
yeah.
She has the right to. She's like, who the hell's talking about Choo Choo Coleman? Like, literally, this is like he was born in the 30s. I'm like, yeah, that's our wheelhouse. It's 50s and 60s. And drugs.
We want that 90 plus demographic.
Talk about drugs too.
Yeah.
We have to throw drugs in there because she first was like, "Is this a drug show?" I'm like, "Is it not?" I'm like, are you shocked? And she was like, "The drugs, the secretary." I'm like, "Defo never had a secretary." She's like, "Exactly." I'm like, "Oh, it's worse if it's the boss." I'm like, "Okay." So she had this story about Choo Choo Coleman. Was once asked by, and I'm going to use her words. Okay, she's watching. She wants. I'm telling you by the way you told me, Mr. Mama, since you want me to tell this story so badly, which is fine. Choo Choo Coleman was once asked by booth bag broadcaster Ralph Kiner, "What's your wife's name and what's she like?" And Choo Choo replied, "She's Mrs. Coleman and she likes me." She said
another oddball fact about
you. She said he'd probably be a huge listener. I'm like, yeah, probably our number one listener.
Oh, the Chooch, man. He was horrible. I mean, with a bat in his hand, I mean, he literally he couldn't hit a clincher if it was lobbed in there, by his own team. He ended up being a chef in a Chinese restaurant. It's one of my favorite true or false questions on the great Choo Choo Coleman. No, that was the thing, though. See, you can have a bad team if they're lovable, which the Mets were. I mean, they were so bad that they were lovable. They were literally like Bad News Bears type of material. And they had all these old geezers at Caesars. You had like Duke Snyder getting up there. Duke Snyder needed a walker to get to home plate. But he was a New York legend, and I think he might have even been out of baseball. I think he was like selling hot dogs on a cart in Manhattan. They said, you know what? Let's take the Duke and put him in center. It'll be like old times.
That's the problem. The Marlins aren't low. Like, it's not like no outside of Pablo. No one knows who any of these people are. Like, if you're going to be bad, at least be interesting.
Yeah.
They're not entertaining. They're not interesting. They're just like lifeless.
Well, and it was also, I mean, the fact that people embraced, the Mets as a horrible team at their inception, which, I was following this really closely because it got boring being a Yankee fan because they won all the time. And that's kind of when it stopped right around that era. And the Mets came on board, and they were laughable. I mean, just it was a disgrace what they did out there on the field, but it was comical and brought along. You couldn't have had a better orchestra leader than the completely, non-understandable Casey Stengel.
Yeah,
who spoke literally his own language. I mean, it was called Stengelese. And, people would ask him like, a simple question, and you give an answer, and you go, yeah, okay, Casey, yeah, that makes sense. But they were likable, too. I mean, that was the other thing. And then, they ended up winning a World Series like 7 years later, the Miracle Mets. And because people had embraced, I think, the laughable side of the franchise, that still remains possibly the most exalted moment of my baseball lifetime, seeing the Miracle Mets win the World Series. I mean, it was incredible, Lubie. If you had followed them from their infamy there at the beginning, when they were among the worst teams ever assembled, and well, I guess they were the worst team in Major League Baseball history, 40 and 120, so bad that they didn't even want them to play those 2 extra games. They just said, we got time for it, but I'll tell you what, Casey, why don't you take the rest of the summer off?
Yeah, exactly. I wish they did that with the Marlins.
Stengel was like 100 when they named him manager.
Pat keeps throwing out always like these Mets. Was Bumsy Green a Met and Elio Chacon? I know you've mentioned these people.
Oh, Bumsy Green and Elio Chacon, classic Mets, yeah. Felix Mantilla, another one. Yeah, you know what would be all over this is our good friend Craig Minervini.
I'm sure.
But if you lived it, Lubie, see, and we don't have that experience, though, with the Marlins. We didn't really get that, did we? I mean, it was kind of, I guess, a different era of sport also, in the way that teams were expended, were put together for expansion. So, I mean, the way they were assembled was completely different. But anyway, that's it on the Marlins, right? They suck, is what the gist of this conversation. I mean, it's hard to watch. It's painful to watch. It really is.
I haven't tried. I don't. It's funny. Was it hard? It was Mayo was talking about it. Like, I don't get them either because I do the Hulu Live, and I'm not mad about it. I'm sort of relieved. Because I used to.
I'm a jinx too. I mean,
I used to do what you do. I'd switch. Oh, they're on. I try and watch a little. Now I don't, and it makes me. I'm happier for it. I don't watch them just throw games away.
That was 6-4-3. I mean, every time I tune in, a guy's hammering a ball into a double play. I mean, it's insane. Or striking out with the bases loaded, or hitting this cheap pop up. As you send a 200 hit at a plate. And it looked like Mattingly was going to, bring about a victory with a series of genius moves. Because he pinch hit for a guy that actually isn't a bad hitter. And the pinch hitter got a hit to get on base, to start the ninth. And then he pinch ran for that guy. And the runner actually was instrumental in them getting into a bases-loaded situation where they had a shot to win the game because he beat a throw to second base on what would have been a force out to end the ball game. Guy made a bad choice there from Cincinnati because they're a bad team.
They're not good.
That's what bad teams do. They give you an opportunity to beat them even when you have nothing.
Yeah, this was the time the Marlins were supposed to go on a run. They were playing the Nationals, the Pirates, the Reds, like just in a circle. So it's supposed to be a nice time for them to go get in the race. And all they've done is like prove that they're a disaster.
All right. I have this reflection going in the poster here, which Leslie Visser says is up backwards. But I mean, I can assure you it's facing the right way. Yeah. I think
something with the mirror.
The camera, but it's a replay, I guess, of last night's match. And I don't know the result of this with Venus Williams making her return to tennis. She's in the first round of a tournament in Atlanta. Now, Lubie had Venus Williams finish 20 years ago.
It was about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And then she,
she won the tournament.
Acquitted herself extremely well by winning Grand Slams and going on to win like 11 tournaments. And, it's funny because I root for Venus Williams, and yet I root for Serena to lose every point. How weird is that? Venus seems more likable, although still, I mean, should she not have said something about this Doug Adler guy, the guy with the guerrilla tactics that lost his career because some New York Times, Twitter guy decided to say, oh, yeah, he called her a gorilla, man. Called her an animal right there on TV. You're like, what? Said nothing of the sort, right? And Venus could have come out and said, right? I mean, does an athlete at that point, should they not, by just moral obligation, say, hey, look, I know the guy. He couldn't possibly have meant anything negative about it. Maybe with the overwhelming sensitivity, I don't know. Did you really have to think about that if you were talking about guerrilla tactics in tennis where, and there was an ad campaign that featured that, right? Wasn't it Agassi and Sampras when they were playing in the streets?
Yeah.
That was calling that guerrilla tennis, yeah.
Whatever.
What a world.
I don't know.
All right, we're all over the map. And one place we'd like to be is Hialeah Park, which is always fantastic. Leslie yesterday mentioned Frank Fiore, our dear friend, man. What an unbelievable guy. And there's always something going on there. And Frankie kind of reflects the spirit of the class and dignity with which Hialeah Park has always conducted its business. I mean, it's always been a great place. Was a subject of some controversy back in the day, but, they were getting hosed by the government. Unbelievable. I was always an advocate for Hialeah Park because I respected its beauty and the dedication of the people that were behind it, and that was the Brunetti family, and they're still involved. John Sr. passed away last year, and everybody misses him, an iconic sports figure here in South Florida. John Jr. and Steve Bernetti and the whole Bernetti family and all the people that are involved there that have been there for a long, long time, like Dennis Testa. I mean, I think he was born there, Dennis. I think he was born on the backstretch. I was born on the backstretch. But he has it inside his heart. It's in his blood, to make this place as spectacular as it can be. So you have all of the inherent beauty of Hialeah Park and the grounds and everything that was so attractive about going there. And then you have this dazzling casino where people are just having a blast and they're winning money, all kinds of big jackpots being paid out. Steve Calabro, he really knows what he's doing. I mean, he knows how to have everything set up so that you're in there with a maximum chance to have the most entertainment for your dollar that you possibly can get. And that's all you can ask, plus in there with a shot to win. Get a player's card when you come in the door. I mean, the rewards program there is just absolutely fat. Would that be FAT or PHAT? Fat. I mean, as in very rewarding. And very lucrative for the player. So make sure you do that. Sign up for a player's card when you get to Hialeah Park. And, wow, you're going to have yourself a great time, whether it's in the casino, the poker room, eating, drinking, just hanging out with your friends there, listening to great music, dancing your heart away there and your feet away on a Friday, Saturday night, taking advantage of all the great amenities they have there, and or punching away on the horses. Toga. I can't believe Leslie's going to Saratoga for the Whitney, huh? Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I hope she catches the really good weather because they've been having some good weather up there and like a mixed bag. I guess you get some rain here and there, but I mean, when the sun's out there, it is so gorgeous. It's unbelievable. I keep seeing these aerial shots. I want to just parachute right in through the television set into the infield there at Saratoga and then make my way somehow into the grandstand and start punching away. But anyway, a great place to punch away on Saratoga, Hialeah Park, Champion Simulcasting Room, Brass Rail Bar, Crossover Cafe, all kinds of good food. They'll deliver it right to you there, anything that you want. As Lubie requested, the pheasant under glass one time. They said, no problem, Mr. Lubitz. We'll be right up with that. Would you like that rare? You cook pheasant rare? No, you just cook it one way, right?
I've never had pheasant. Yeah, I feel like you just cook it. Different things from pheasant.
We're feeding our people pheasant. Andy's in the hospital, and we're talking about having pheasant under glass. All right. Hialeah Park, great destination. Check them out at hialeahpark.com. All right, we're coming back with more. Take you up until 9 o'clock. Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, a lot of NFL stuff going on, huh? With all of this Deshaun Watson stuff. I don't know what else you can say about it. Seems odd to marginalize the whole idea that they went through all of this agony to decide what this suspension was going to be and what was a proper level of punishment and or redemption that should have to be paid by Deshaun Watson for his acts that were detrimental to the image of the league. And after all of that, it was like, much ado about nothing, huh?
Pretty much.
Shakespeare. Yep. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:02. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup, All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Francois Lebec. Good morning, Francois.
Listen to me one moment, please. You fat ass. Tired of the way you speak about the Canadians? We are good people. We're here vacationing on the beach. We bring our dollars here, and you're always putting down the Canadians, and me personally am sick and tired of your crap. And you're not losing weight. I saw you the game. You're fat like a pig. The other thing that I would like to say is that you're going to throw out some baseball. I will be there personally to boo you out of the stadium. We come here as good people, friendly people, nice people. We don't need you to speak like you speak, Jeffrey, the fat ass the forest.
The Defo Show, featuring Lubie. We now return to The Defo Show.
Among my favorite ever phone calls that we've taken on the show, Francois Lebec.
Yes, Lebec. Lebec was great. We only did one time.
Yeah, Lebec, he really unloaded on us. Louis. Well, he kind of left you out of the
saying about me.
Mostly a personal attack on.
And your weight, you've lost a lot of weight, so you'd have to change the derogatory term.
You can never lose enough. Not with the, being on borrowed time. I mean, that's the one thing. 70 years old, that's one thing. But then you start putting some digits on that, and it's borrowed time, Libby. There's no question about it. And Andy, we hope you get well, like quickly, man. I mean, this sounded fairly serious. What happened to him? He said he nearly rolled a 7 last night. But that would have been that. I mean, just when he was on a roll, too. Unbelievable. He had women chasing him, all kinds of stuff. Maybe that led to his problems. I'm not sure. All right, welcome back to the show. Good to be with you. The Defo Show here on South Florida Live. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. A little while from now, about 25 minutes or so, Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars, will explore various issues and answers about the National Football League, which we're already, a couple of days into training camp. Is Saturday the Hall of Fame game? I want to say yes.
Isn't it Thursday?
Thursday is the Hall of Fame game. This
August
Thursday
4th is our opener of the NFL. I mean, I don't know who we play.
The Hall of Fame game. Okay.
But is the Hall of Fame game?
I think the Raiders are involved in this, are they not?
Raiders
Las Vegas
and
Raiders?
Jaguars. The Greek.
Oh, okay.
Who's now 14-4, by the way. We couldn't get the technical things to work, but I made sure to give his pick. He's 14-4 here.
Yeah. With
baseball, basketball, and he did one USFO play on South Florida Live. I was with him yesterday. He wanted to make sure everyone knows, and he'll come on with us tomorrow or Thursday to make sure to give his play. He is all over the Jags in the Hall of Fame game.
Loves the Jags in the Hall of Fame game, yeah.
Loves them.
You're Doug Peterson. You have to establish that winning culture right away. So winning this Hall of Fame game obviously would be a giant quantum leap forward in terms of the team's overall morale after, suffering underneath this crazy man, this maniac, Urban Meyer, who was obviously out of his mind at the time that he was coaching the team and drunk with power. I mean, talk about Shakespearean, drunk with power and thinking that he was running a college team. He managed to run Trevor Lawrence right into the ground.
Yeah.
Right into the ground. This was a guy that couldn't miss, man. He was Andrew Luck all over again. I don't know that Peyton Manning was held in his high regard, as Lawrence was coming in from the time that he was chucking a rock there in college and came into prominence. And everybody said, what, Lubie? Here it is. Prototype, can't miss National Football League quarterback. Mm-hmm. And what they didn't factor into the equation was Urban Meyer is a putz. It turns out. I mean, he couldn't coach a dog to eat meat when it came to pro football. It was unbelievable. So, dangle a steak in front of this guy. Get him the hell out of here. The whole thing, I guess the incident and I suppose this to be true, seemed like there was a little refuting it, that he actually kicked that kicker. like in the balls, and said, you miss another one or whatever it was, and that was it. That was his method
Like,
of
is this
coaching.
just like, so, okay, and I get it. They got it from somewhere, and we don't do it now, but there's still holdouts that still want to be old school. I am old school in a sense, but I've never dealt with coaches like that. I guess I didn't play high enough level. Like in the 60s and 70s, did coaches really do these things? Like, did coaches really physically mangle their players and think it was okay? Like, was that really ever like?
The angry coach was, I would say, more typical than a Mike McDaniel. That's for sure. The coach usually had a crew cut, and had been involved like in college wrestling, and maybe taught like metal shop, to satisfy whatever commitment he had to the Board of Education, because it wasn't good enough for him to just be the football coach, right? Basketball coaches, I don't know that they were as big of a hard on as most football coaches were, but when I was around in high school and even college, right? The baseball team, we had the buzzard, Andy Mokish. He'd been there for like 100 years at Syracuse University. Fabled coach, man. He was like the Mike Martin of Syracuse. Although there wasn't much success on the Buzzards record.
He's the old coach that never won.
Well, you couldn't win. I mean, you talk about inhibiting conditions. I mean, you couldn't even get outside until April 30th, and then then it was 12 degrees out. Right? You'd hit some ball off the handle. It was like you didn't even want to run it out because you didn't want to be on base because it was too cold.
Exactly. You're like, screw that. You go to the
and then catching a ball, right? If you hit one, where it hit the heel of your hand there. Whatever, and it was like catching a shot put. Just having the catcher throw the ball back to the mound. I was like, "What? Come on, Raph." That was my buddy. Could you throw it a little slower? Like, just loop them back to me. You don't have to show off your arm all the time. There's no scouts here.
No scouts. No one gives a shit.
Scouts.
It's like -5.
There were literally buzzards hovering overhead for the carcasses that were going to be remaining there after 6 innings of playing in frigid temperatures. Yeah. So it wasn't much, but those guys were old school, man. I mean, really. I would say there was much more of that. I don't know when the transition came to a kinder, gentler guy. I don't know. Aren't some of these coaches though? Still very much old school. When you see Calamari, like ripping into his team during a timeout, or
Izzo, and people love Izzo. If you see Izzo, he gets red faced. That's what. But I'm just saying, like the stuff Bobby Knight did, even into like the '90s, it was. Yeah. I always was like, so people get better after that. Like I yell at my kids, and they're 8 and under, and I feel bad after. But I'm not yelling at them. I just yell because they don't listen. But I never like you. And I get it, they're 8. So I don't know what I would do. But I coach 15-year-olds. It never dawned on me. If I call him a stupid ass, he's going to play better. Like, why would someone play better when you call them a jerk off? Like, I never put those two together. Like, I don't know.
I mean, we were talking about it the other day, sort of. We were touching on something along these lines. And it really is like, being the big boxing fan that I am. I mean, you listen to the instructions in the corner, and most of the time, that guy is just absolutely berating his fighter, even if he's winning. Like, he's won every round. And the guy is sitting there, you got to stop, you're working in there like an idiot. You got to open your eyes. And they're always screaming at the guy, right? Now, there are other, trainers that are really good at giving instructions in the corner. And you've had, many examples where it worked. And then you even had the mild-mannered Angelo Dundee. What was he going to tell Muhammad Ali, right? But still known for getting in the face of a guy that was above reproach in this regard, right? Who's screaming at Sugar Ray Leonard, "You're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it." So it does work, I guess, sometimes. I mean, you have to know, as Jimmy Johnson told us in that clip we play, you kind of have to have a feel for who it is that you're talking to and how you're talking to him. Which good coaches do. But no, the hard-on mentality, I think, was in play. I mean, any time that when I was a kid into my 20s, I mean, that's kind of the approach that everybody had. Right? Like, okay, you're going to run these drills, and we're going to run them until you drop dead. I remember my arm hanging down to the ground like an orangutan because this guy, Herm Card, had me throw 200 pitches in a batting cage. 200 pitches.
What the hell?
It was like two seasons.
Yeah, they would do the opposite. Now they don't want to throw anything.
Yeah, yeah. And the guy, the medical, people weren't that sharp at the time. I mean, they didn't really know anything about orthopedics and all of that, right? And the guy actually, I said, you know what? My arm really is like, I mean, it's as sore as it's ever been. I don't even know if I can, lift it above my waist. And the guy gave me 2 salt tablets and a bag of ice. That was it. It's like, what? What is this going to do? Nothing. That was the doctor for all of the teams, by the way. They had like one doctor. It was kind of like having Dr. Principata, the Met fan, or, one of my all-time favorites, the greatest, this old geezer was the ring physician at the Olympic Auditorium. He had to be 100 years old, Dr. Bernhard Schwartz. And they would introduce him, and you would think just a vibration from his name resonating through the arena would be enough to have this guy have a heart attack. I mean, he was ready to go at a moment's notice. All right, we're going to come back with more. Brett Tessler, the agent of the Star, is going to join us. And, we're looking forward to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and a journey down there. To Jimmy with the book coming out. I have to. He called me again. I feel terrible. Would you get a hold of Mike Westhoff and have him on the show at least? And we can admit that we didn't read the book yet. He's going to be so disappointed.
I thought it was great. He messaged me. I'm like, yeah, coach, what a job. What a job you did.
Oh, you told him it was great? Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm not.
Well, what if he asks you about it? What if you have to do like a quiz?
I'll say, well, when O.J. McDuffie was talking, he's mentioned the book for 3 years with us.
Yeah,
I can mention, I know Zach.
The stuff on Zach was brilliant.
In it. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to lie to the guy, but we don't read anything. So I'm not trying to be mean. I would
we haven't read a book that was sent to us.
I just don't read.
Doesn't happen, yeah.
I've worked a lot now, so what I want to just turn my brain off. Reading always took work. So
all right, so we read Jimmy's book? Yeah,
no,
do we read
I'll
Jimmy's
read
book?
both of these books. At some point, I will read both of these books. I'm having
get Westhoff on the show.
We'll get him
we'll
on.
Read his book.
Wow,
yeah.
Zach was amazing, and the stuff with OJ and Marino.
Has anybody in our audience read his book? I mean, let's see. My problem isn't that I wouldn't have read it. I wouldn't know how to order it. When people come on the show, and even famous authors, right, that have come on our show, and they say, "Oh yeah, all the usual channels." That seems to be the way you sign off on a book guy. It used to be, well, it's going to be available at Barnes and Noble and this bookstore and that bookstore, but now that there are no bookstores, it's available online, right? The usual channels is what you say, but I would have no idea. I've never ordered anything. I'm afraid to put my credit card information online for fear that I may find out that somebody that was not necessarily going to do me any favors would get the information. No. That's all I need, right? I don't need this. I don't want any problems anymore.
There's a Barnes & Noble by me. So if you want to go to Coral Springs, there's a Barnes
But I don't know. Is it even in bookstores? I don't know. Is it only available online? I'm not sure, man. But I wouldn't know how to order the book. I don't mean to insult Mike Westhoff because I love the guy. But he'll be very disappointed if we admit that we haven't read the book or received a copy of it yet.
I really enjoyed it.
What if he says he's in town and he wants to come over and sign it? Get a copy of the book.
So I'll go buy a copy.
I'm kind of busy today.
I know. You're making me feel bad.
Anyway, Jimmy's got a book coming out with Dave Hyde, and we want to get down there to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo, and always, just a great destination. Well, we had a blast when we were down there. It was about a year ago. I want to say right around the Snag's birthday, August 23rd, yeah. So maybe we can make it a repeat, and a year later, the calendar year goes by, but same good vibe is being given off there. In fact, if nothing else, they're better than ever with the remodeled sports bar that they have. Great place to watch football. Jimmy, he wouldn't be associated with any place that wasn't first rate and run very well. Dominic Kajemi, John's brother, he does a marvelous job there with his wife, Amanda. Larry Calvano, the owner. What a spirited guy. Gets up there, starts playing a guitar.
Yep.
And you're thinking, oh, geez, the band, can you believe it? What punishment for them? They haven't even got paid yet. They have to have the owner get up there and play a couple of licks. And then the guy, all of a sudden, you're thinking, holy Garth Brooks, this guy's amazing here.
Yeah, he's legit.
Yeah. Singing, dancing, doing all kinds of stuff. And then, wow, it's just a beautiful time all the way around, from sunrise to sunset and all night long. You can party there at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Great food and drink, wide variety of stuff on the menu. Perfect place to hang out during the day there if you're in Key Largo, or just stop in if you're going to any other destination in the Keys. Everybody loves it, and you're going to love it too. It's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. And you got to get Mayo on that Italian fisherman.
Yeah, he's all about it. He wants to come. I think we're going to bring a whole crew.
You think he'll bring that sort of grumpy, skeptical look?
Nah, he's good about
Well,
putting on a
I've
front.
had better pizzas. I've had some of the best in the world.
Now, one thing I've learned about him on these remotes is
He slobbers it down.
he's learned how to
Yeah.
put on a smile and wow, look at
Yeah.
wow.
This is no gamble, though, for the gambling gourmet.
No,
This is a sure thing. I'm giving the guy a winner. I'm telling him, hey, the 7-horse can't lose here. Mayo, put all your money on that.
Yep.
And if he's not overwhelmed by the Italian fisherman pizza, if he has even the slightest bit of like, well, one of those kind of things, I would be amazed. I really would.
It'll be fine.
It would take a lot. Yeah.
What do you mean? I pitch to anytime I know anyone's going down to the Keys. The first thing I say is you need to stop at the Big Chill. Like we haven't even talked to them in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we've had time away from Congemi. It hasn't changed anything. Like my first thing I think of when I think of Keys is the Big Chill. Like it's perfect. Like
Yes,
the Keys
perfect.
is such a pain in the ass drive. Where it's located is like I wish I'd known about that forever because that drive sucks. But what's cool about it's right at the beginning. So like
Yes.
even if you're not going to Largo, going to the Key West is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So if you can stop in Key Largo and like just okay, that was the first half. We're gonna have a good meal, and then we'll go and do this. Like no matter what,
and literally chill out the rest of the way, all the way to this torturous drive to Key West.
Nah, I mean, I
It used to be really weird when the 7 Mile Bridge was like in its primitive stage.
Under one lane.
Oh my God! I thought I was going to die. I got married the first time in Key West, and I'd taken a couple of trips down there, and I was driving an MGB, and the bridge was so narrow that if a truck was coming the other way, there really wasn't room to even go in the direction you were going in. I mean, without like scraping the wall there, like you were Parnelli Jones or something, going around in Daytona. Like what? I mean, and it was just dangling over the water there. There was no, guardrail, nothing. I mean, to speak of. Pouring rain. It was a nightmare. But it's still a schlep. So Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. I mean, great spot on the way. And people used to think that the Mutineer was like high level dining. Is it called the Mutineer? I think it is.
There is a Mutineer.
The key route there. Yeah. What is it? The Buccaneer? What is that place there?
There is like a pirate themed thing. I don't remember. I think Mutineer. I mean, that sounds about right.
We went in there. Didn't you almost win the karaoke that night? Yeah.
Florida.
We were down there covering the race in Homestead.
They had a nice crowd.
Yeah, that was a strange spot.
I'd rather the Big Chill.
You walk in there and you look around and you're asking yourself, like that time we were in Flossie's and the only other people in the bar at the time were members of the Outlaws.
Exactly.
And, we thought, I mean, do we really fit in here? 2 Jewish kids. Unbelievable. That they're looking to have a couple of Cosmos before we go out and listen to the band. All right, we're coming back with Brett Tessler, the Agent of the Stars. He's going to join us here in just a few minutes on the show. We'll get into this old NFL thing that's going on. So a lot of speculation. Somehow, flipped on the NFL Network yesterday without realizing it. That ever happened to you where, your dog sat on a remote or something and then you're watching a channel that you're like, well, how did this get on there? And they were going around all the training camps. Really fascinating, Lubie. Training camp previews. I know it was great.
That's how you know you're hungry for something that's not baseball or whatever the hell we've had. Is I actually have found myself. Oh wow, look at Trey Lance.
Look at that, yeah.
Like why the hell would I care about?
Nobody's doing anything though of any substance. It doesn't seem like. I mean, do they not allow cameras to roll when they're actually working?
Yeah,
because everybody's just like, take 2 steps back and lob a pass over here. Hey Joe, how you doing? What did you have for lunch today? And, you're thinking, what happened to this Shula-like intensity that we used to imagine? Jimmy with the middle drill. It doesn't seem like, do they practice and do anything anymore? And it looks, I mean, you couldn't go through the motions any more slowly. It's like those early spring training shots when they would have like highlight reel about the Yankees going to spring training and they'd have some kind of cockamamie music in the background. Like, what is this? The Army-Navy game?
Yeah, exactly.
But, it doesn't seem like they're doing much. That would be the my conclusion, unless I'm missing something.
No, they're being weird about what they're allowing to be shown. And
I think
that's what's happening. Yeah, you're not allowed to really see anything.
When does Hard Knocks start? Hard Knocks.
The next week? Isn't it like the second? Oh no, is it's when preseason started, right? So what? It's like I think it's next week.
Could be. I mean, that's always one of my favorites, Hard Knocks. Although I think Mustang might have canceled our HBO in an effort to save a few bucks on the.
It's the Lions. I don't know if I guess.
Oh, the Lions. Oh, that would be fascinating.
It's interesting because he's going to be serious even in the.
Dan Campbell. Can you imagine? Yeah. We want this game. Right? You're talking about the Hall of Fame game, right? We want this game.
Exactly.
Greek all over Jacksonville, huh? You really have to be out of your mind about the Hall of Fame game, don't you?
100%.
Unless,
100%.
Is it an annual, is it an annuity to take the under in the Hall of Fame game every year? It seems to me they never score any points in the Hall of Fame game.
Tuesday, August 9th is the opening of Hard Knocks. A week from today.
Okay, but as I said, I think the Mustang, shaved like $6 off the cable bill and canceled HBO. Because we didn't watch it much anymore since they don't have boxing anymore. I wasn't watching a lot of HBO. Sopranos is long gone. Yeah. Some of their Showtime seems to have taken over where HBO left off as a creative entity.
HBO right now. Right now, HBO is sort of slow.
All right, Venus Williams in this match is about to lose in the third set in the first round of this thing in Atlanta. This took place last night, and she did lose. Wow.
Well, I mean, she's been done for a long time. Serena's finally done, but Venus has been done, 3-4 years?
This was a comeback, but she's a gracious loser, Venus. Whereas Serena would have chopped this woman's head off with a racket at the net and then cursed at everybody on her way out there like she was Nick Kyrgios, in a skirt. Unbelievable. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here. Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, is going to join us. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz. Happy to have you with us on South Florida Live. Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet, with the Mike Mayo's lunchbox. That was sort of disgusting again yesterday. Why does he think that's good when he's stuffing his face, while on camera, and then talking with his mouth full?
It's going to get worse. Yesterday's sandwich was a standard sandwich. Like if he gets into like a Sloppy Joe or some of these.
How about a Muffaletta, man? He should have had Tom.
He does a po' boy with like remoulade on it. I mean, he's going to get. You think
do hoagies qualify? See, when I think of a sandwich, I think of like salami on rye or something.
I agree. He's doing anything that has meat with bread. So we'll probably get a burger at some point and hot dogs. He's doing.
Yeah, I never considered a burger a sandwich. Did you?
Not. No, I don't.
I mean, it is essentially
a hot dog a sandwich. Yeah, obviously, but he's going to do it every day for a month, so he needs material. There's only so many sandwiches.
He's not big on tuna. You notice he always makes a face whenever I bring up like the tuna sub, like it's not a real sub.
Yeah, which is weird. That's my go. That used to be until I found out Subway doesn't have tuna. I don't know what the fuck Subway uses. That it's ruined me for tuna.
It was tuna substance or something. Yeah.
And that used to be my go-to. I don't trust sub shops for that. Like, and I
know.
Oh
no, there were definitely places that are reputably serve. I mean, La Spada's tuna is outstanding. All right, sandwich month. So we'll have some of that. I guess we'll have Mike Mayo stuffing his face again today on Mike Mayo's lunchbox. 100%. Then he tries to say something. That's he's going to learn the hard way that that's not a good move.
I don't mind him eating. It's when he tries to respond.
Yeah.
Do your eating. We'll talk. We've done this before.
Yeah.
I enjoy
just put a pie on your face or something while you're doing this. All right. We're coming back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, restores some normalcy to the program here. We've been all over the planet here today because I just couldn't get on the pedestal and scream about Deshaun Watson all day. I don't know, and I'm not sure that any of it, has any meaning at this point, right? If they suspended a guy 5 years, then you would have said, man, look at that. The NFL, they really care about these women's issues. They want to make an example of this guy. But I would have supposed, I would suppose they would have faced some serious legal ramifications if they did anything overwhelming. Did we ever find out what they had to pay Colin Kaepernick? Didn't they have to settle something with him? And then Gruden's probably going to take down a couple of zillion of Roger Goodell's money. All right. I
just love that Gilbert still is like nothing's happened with him. And we know there's enough around him where they could do something with Dan Gilbert and they don't even mention his name. It's like he's the one that shouldn't be named. They don't even mention Dan Gilbert's name.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, Snyder, you mean?
Dan Snyder. I don't know why I
Yeah.
said Gilbert. Gilbert's the stupid idiot.
I was
with the
thinking
Cavs.
Dan Gilbert's
Dan
some
Snyder.
hockey player.
He's the Cavs schmank owner. Dan Snyder. Yeah, they don't even mention his name. Like, and he's supposedly wrapped up in like 17 different.
He's testifying for like 14 hours in front of Congress the other day. No problem.
There's no issues with him at all. He's
Bobby Kraft, a big smile on his face. I mean, he's getting jerked off before he jumps on his private jet to fly to a Patriots game where, he's supposedly exuding class with the blue shirt with the white collar.
Yep. He's the face of the league.
Face of the league, right? And a man of reason, right? He was just in an Asian massage parlor in Jupiter, Florida, for Christ's sake.
Some random ass.
Not even like some place where you would think, wow, this place is well known for its massage parlors, right? He's on Bourbon Street or something.
Vegas,
right?
some shit.
Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
Jupiter, Florida, right? At a gas station, which had a nail shop next door. Crazy.
Nothing happened.
Bob Kraft, owner, he's about to get on a private jet. Think about that for a second. He's getting a $50 blowjob in this place. And the cops just happen to be there, man. I mean, that's how they caught Henry Hill, with that point shaving scheme with Boston College. All right, coming back with Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, here in just a moment on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. Happy to have you tuned in on South Florida Live. The Gambling Gourmet, Mike Mayo, feeds his face on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox at 12, and we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that. He really thinks that is entertaining, huh, Mayo?
I don't mind the eating. It's just the talking. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
When he does the talking, it starts coming out.
I'm worried that we're going to go Mama Cass on this kid, and lose him. And we don't want to do that. He's carving a path, blazing a path there in journalistic history. So 8:31.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752. Would you go into court without an attorney? So why would you go up against an insurance company without Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa? 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Give them a call at 954-809-8752. Why go up against insurance companies alone when you can have Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa on your side?
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less work, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, the Defo Show here on South Florida Live. And it's always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman to the program. NFL training camps underway. I was watching a little survey yesterday. And, of course, the big blockbuster headline from the National Football League yesterday, the suspension finally announced for Deshaun Watson as a 6-game suspension. It's challengeable by both the Players Association and the league, and the Players Association says, nah, we're fine with that. I don't know if they were expecting more or whatever. And remains to be seen if Roger Goodell is going to have some kind of response to it. But it did spark a lot of controversy and conversation around the country. And to help us address that and other things, we welcome to the show the agent of the stars, Mr. Brett Tessler. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Steve. Great to be with you guys.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you on the show. All right. I don't know. I mean, did you receive any feedback from people in general? What would you say the reaction was to the announced 6-game suspension? And we did clarify earlier that this was an independent arbitrator, a judge, a former federal judge that made this decision. It wasn't Goodell or his disciplinary group. And the Players Association seemed fine with it. Most people thought it was going to be like a minimum of a year's suspension for Deshaun Watson. But what kind of reaction, what kind of feedback did you get on it? And what did you think about what the league did?
I mean, ultimately, guys, it comes down to a matter of public relations, because the fact remains Deshaun Watson has been charged with nothing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there was an owner who was charged, with something in a similar type of situation. Deshaun was never charged. And so, again, this isn't a matter of, me judging him or anything like that. I'm just looking at it strictly from a legal and practical standpoint. And the bottom line is, sure, yeah, I'm sure he used bad judgment. Yeah, I'm sure, he did some things that might have been inappropriate or maybe harassing, if you will. But again, there was no violence used in any of the accusations. Nobody was underage. And again, it's not to condone anything that he did or did not do. It's a matter of, first of all, these accusations have cost him or will cost him tens of millions of dollars in future endorsement money. I mean, as a starting quarterback in this league, it's a marketing gold mine. And, let's just say that regardless at this point, whether he did or didn't do the things he's accused of, nobody's ever going to touch this guy off the field in terms of, any type of, endorsements or anything of any kind. So It's certainly going to be very costly for him. And as it relates to the 6 games, I think that the league should respect the decision from the judge that they jointly appointed to make these decisions, a female judge, by the way.
Yeah.
And so, this is an unprecedented suspension in terms of length. And for all the people out there with torches and pitchforks that want him suspended for a year or 2 years, banned for life, public, death by firing squad, whatever, the bottom line is I've always been a believer in the legal system of this country. And, I just feel like this country's legal system is more equipped to get to the bottom of issues like this than, say, a commissioner of a professional sports league. And so it is what it is. The NFLPA has come out and said that they would be willing to accept whatever decision, again, that the jointly appointed judge ended up making. And so I'm of the opinion that I'd be willing to go with that. And I think for the NFL at this point to appeal that, and for Roger Goodell to just, unilaterally make whatever decision it is that he makes on this matter, I think, again, it's not so much an issue of fairness as it's strictly just going to be an issue of public relations and doing what he thinks the public and the fans want him to do.
Brett, when it comes to using things like this as a cautionary tale for your clients, like how involved are agents? And I get it, they're adults and they're grown, but so often when these players do things, we're all like, what is he doing? And that's, to me, that's the Watson issue here, right? We haven't heard of violence. We haven't heard of rape. We haven't heard of any of those things. It was the fact that it was like 60-something masseuse, they were massage therapists in like a 2-year span, which is a weird number. And it just felt a little hinky, right? So as an agent, what is your job in this? Like, are you supposed to be an overseer going, hey, John, maybe, just stick with Carrie, like what is your role when it comes to leading their daily lives? Because again, it's their life. But again, so many people are attached to their livelihood, including themselves. Sometimes they sort of need someone over their shoulder going, hey, buddy, maybe you should pull back a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think Deshaun Watson was checking with his agent before he reached out to every masseuse on Instagram and did or did not try to get happy endings. I don't think that's something
Definitely
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as an agent, it's no different. Look, I mean, agents are people and players are people. It's no different than you or anybody out there listening with friends or family members of theirs. Some people you think wind up, maybe having a side to them that you've never seen or that you weren't aware of. This is why I'm just incredibly picky and choosy and very discriminating in terms of the type of players and people who I'll represent. And, obviously I hope that the players who choose me as their agent choose me because they trust and believe in my character the same way that I choose them because I ultimately trust and believe in their character as well as obviously their ability. And so this is just kind of one of those tough situations where, I can't stress enough. I'm not condoning anything that he did or did not do. It's one of those deals where, did he use poor judgment? I think at least we can all probably agree on that. But, he's paying a very heavy price for that. And so again, we will see what ends up happening here over the next few days. But, if you're asking me, do I have faith in the league office to do the right thing, to handle this situation properly? I think you know the answer to
that. Won't see you with a Roger Goodell banner flying in front of the Tessler households there in Wisconsin and here in South Florida. All right, Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, with us, his appearance every week, brought to you by Will and Trust attorney Mr. Michael D. Wild. It seems like, Brett, we've seen a reversal of form, or at least of thinking, where a holdout used to mean a guy wasn't coming to training camp and he didn't want anything to do with the team, lose my number kind of mentality. And now it's more of a sit-in that seems to get the job done. Yep. When you have a player, and we've seen, two recent examples of this where players came to training camp but were not participating in anything. Defo Samuel, I guess the latest example of this, and then ended up getting their contract extensions. So, what happened here? What happened to the holdout? Is it now more fashionable for a client or a player, to try and get a contractual satisfaction, some kind of contractual satisfaction to actually come to training camp and sit there in the offices and say, hey, as soon as you pay me, I'm playing?
It's not a matter of fashion. It's strictly a matter of economics, because with the latest collective bargaining agreement, prior to that, players could hold out, and obviously there was the prescribed amount of fine per day that players could be fined, but the teams had the right to go ahead and waive those fines. So let's say a guy missed a week and he ended up accruing $250,000 of fines. Once the player and their agent and the team were able to come upon an agreement, at that point, the player would come back in there and sign the new deal, and the team would forgive the fines. Now teams are not allowed to forgive the fines. Now the fines are mandatory, $50,000 a day. It's a big number. I don't care who you are, how much you're making. And because of that, it forces the players to come in. But, to the team's credit, they figured out a way to have the players there so the players are not getting fined while continuing to try to work through the contract issues. And I believe that actually having the player around is more conducive to getting a deal done in good faith, as opposed to if the player is staying away from his teammates and not taking calls from his coaches or other things that can happen or have happened throughout the years in some of these long, prolonged holdouts. So I think it's actually a good thing that the new policy is the way it is as written, because again, it kind of forces the players to get in there. And if the teams are willing to be reasonable and not force them out there on the field, it allows things to get done again in a mutually beneficial way.
Is there, I don't know, there may never be reason for this going back, maybe in the days of Mark Brunell, but is there reason to believe that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be a decent team this year? Is it just a departure of Urban Meyer and that whole circus and maybe some level-headedness that could come, some balance that could come with more of a veteran guy in the NFL like Doug Peterson?
There's some things in life you can trust. There's other things you need to actually see to believe. And, when you look at a team who's had a very long run of futility and bad coaching hires and bad front office decisions and things of that nature, it's one of those things where I certainly root for Jacksonville. I root for, all these teams. I do business with them all. I have friends in all 32 buildings. So, it would really be nice to see a team like that sort of maybe turn the corner. And, when you get someone like Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick, by all accounts, that guy could be a great quarterback for you for the next 15 years. So let's hope they can make the other necessary additions and subtractions to help them really turn the corner and become a more successful franchise than what they've been.
Brett, we've talked in the past about culture, and is that something like, can you just tell a staff / culture from one to another? And you talked about that. I think we've even talked to you about Urban Meyer, but can you tell when you're dealing with a regime, can you just walk away going, you know what, I can feel that this regime, the way they're being handled, will be a success compared to those where you'll walk away and go, wow, this is a freaking disaster? Like, can you just tell, just from negotiating, just talking, just being around, just your players' reactions to, okay, this organization gives off the vibe where I feel they'll succeed, where this organization does not give off that vibe?
Undoubtedly, when you've been doing this as long as I have, and when you've done about 600 contracts throughout the entire league, I deal with these teams repeatedly, and agents speak amongst each other. As much as everybody thinks that everybody in our business absolutely despises each other and wants each other dead, that's not quite the case. There's a lot of communication that goes on between certain agents. And it's really no coincidence that when one team screws you over and goes back on their word or backs out of a deal or an agreement, and, you talk to one of your agent friends or colleagues, and they're like, yeah, you know what? They did the same thing to me. Well, once you've heard that and once it's happened to you, then moving forward, you can never trust them. You can never give them the benefit of the doubt. And if you're in a situation where you're with a client and you have multiple options in terms of where to go, and one of those teams are your options, there's a good chance that in the end, you're going to be steering your player in a different direction.
Oh, wow.
And not as retribution for what they did, but just as, sort of a warning sign that, hey, they just simply can't be trusted. And so, these are the things. I'm certainly not going to mention names, but there's a few teams that come to mind real quick. And anytime I'm in a situation where one of those teams is reaching out and we have other options, 9 times out of 10, we'll be going in a different direction.
What kind of fire, we're talking with Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars here on the Defo Show. What kind of fire is Lamar Jackson playing with by representing himself in what you would figure with the quarterback position might be more complex negotiations than, say, other people are dealing with at different positions, especially with the amount of money that's being thrown around. I mean, it's been done before. It's not unprecedented where guys have represented themselves, but is this guy really flirting? Not to be, force you in a position of being self-serving, but it does seem odd that, he's been unable to get, a contract done, and yet, he's still representing himself.
It's just not a good decision, Defo. And obviously, as an agent, it naturally sounds self-serving for me to say that. It's just that throughout the years, different players have tried it. And I can't specifically remember one instance where anybody could say, yeah, he did a great job, or he did as good of a job as, a professional skilled agent could have done on his behalf. And, the reason why you have an agent is the same reason why you have car insurance. It's not just, for the best case scenario, it's actually for the worst. It's not just to negotiate a contract. It's to be a buffer between the team. It's to be a buffer between coaches and front office if a player is having an issue. It's to deal with injuries if, God forbid, that comes up. It's, somebody who knows the right second meant for you, the right for you.
Yeah, we kind of lost Brett Tessler there for the time being, unfortunately. Yeah, there you go. We lost you there for a sec, Brett. I was just thinking how great the signal is today, and then you crapped out there for a few seconds. But you were talking about how the agent and the different purposes that there would be to not put the player in a position where they were having to deal directly, possibly with a team like the ones you were describing before that are a little bit unscrupulous. It's just a bad position to be in.
Yeah, and like I was saying, sorry about that. It's just, there's other matters that come up, injuries, different things, you name it. Don't you think a starting quarterback has? And frankly, I think, knowing that you have somebody, who has your best interest at heart, who's taking care of the business stuff, kind of allows you to focus on what you need to do to ensure that you're as productive as possible on the field, so you can continue to earn whatever contract they negotiate for you, as well as, any future deals that, with success can come your way.
Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, with us. Of course, his appearance every week, brought to you by Will and Trust attorney, Mr. Michael D. Weil. That's a sure thing. You can't go wrong when you're, using and employing the services of one Michael D. Weil, which he does at ridiculously reasonable rates, considering the kind of job that he's going to do for you.
Yeah, I mean, you get what you pay for in life, and this is one of those instances where you actually get more than you pay for, because, if you look at some of the other attorneys out there who do what he does, that maybe charge a lot more, who don't do the job nearly as well. That's why we're all fortunate to have used Michael Wild. You can find him at southfloridawills.com. Makes the process very quick, painless, and easy. Stop procrastinating. Reach out to Michael Wild, southfloridawills.com.
Excellent stuff, Brett Tessler. As always, we thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week, and have a great week as we get closer and closer to the ball finally dropping on the next NFL season. Should be a lot of fun. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, Tessler.
I was going to ask him his impression. I mean, this one's a little baffling to me, Lubie. All right? You'll find this surprising, but among the things that I noted this morning in my perusal of the New York Post, the odds to win the Super Bowl were posted, okay? Now, who do you think is favored to win the Super Bowl this year? Favorite team to win the Super Bowl?
The Rams should be, but it's probably the Bucks. People are weird on the Bucks.
The Bucks are the second choice at 750.
Oh, the Bills. They're weird on the Bills, too. And
Bills are the favorite at 6-1. You get 6-1 on the Bills, 750-1 on the Buccaneers. The Chiefs are the third choice at 9-1. The Rams are 11-1. Does that not seem like I don't know. I mean, teams don't repeat. But you said they made moves on top of moves to ensure. Look, they signed all of these guys for jillions of dollars. I don't even know if they reached their full potential last year. I think they could have played even better. No,
they had Robert
of the season.
Hurt.
Yeah,
OBJ came late. He got hurt in the friggin' Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep. I guess OBJ, his status is what? Out
he's
for the
not
season?
there. They brought in Allen Robinson, who's one of the better receivers, and he's even bigger than OBJ, so he's a better red zone target. Cooper Kupp has made himself one of the top 3 receivers in football.
He's great. Yeah.
I think they get Woods back. I forgot about Robert Woods, but I think they get him back. Cam Akers comes back, and he had injury issues down the stretch. And he added someone defensively. They lost Von Miller, but then they added someone who was like younger and just as good. I'm trying to remember who.
Yeah.
Like, that team was loaded. I mean,
how are they 11-1 with the Bills? Still unproven. It's like Brett Tessler was talking about with the Jaguars. In certain situations, seeing is believing. You have to show it to me. And the Bills, they haven't shown that they're at that level yet, have they? I mean, for all the people that are already putting them into the championship picture there and hoisting the Lombardi, it seems to me they've had opportunities, and last year was a brilliant opportunity for them, and they couldn't cash.
Yes.
So I know the knocking on the door theory, and I do subscribe to that to an extent in a lot of different sports where the team kind of like is knocking on the door, like the Braves were to win a World Series. The Nationals a few years ago when they finally broke through, won a World Series. You have to kind of tap on the door there. The Pistons many years back, right? When they finally broke through and won some championships, but they were knocking on the door. NBA is big on that. NFL too, but I don't know. The Bills have had chances. Should they be the favorite over the Rams to win the Super Bowl this year by almost a 2-1 margin? Think about that.
I don't know. The Bills are good, but the running game is okay, not great. The receivers outside of Diggs are good, not great. Allen, I think it's a good quarterback, but I never thought Allen was what they want Allen to be. I think Denver's a team that should be better than the Bills. Like Denver, the only problem with them is they're in that division.
16-1 on the Broncos. 16-1.
That team.
Yeah.
Look, and I couldn't name any of their players, but any NFL person we talked to was like, "Wow, if they had a quarterback,
Russell
Wilson was on a team that was a disaster, falling apart, and he kept them in the playoff discussion. Like the dude now with talent and an organization that's consistently won, why wouldn't they be? I don't know. Like to me, there's something about
16-1. You would take a shot with the Broncos. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think the Packers are going to be there for some reason. I just don't.
I have to see them without Adams.
Chargers, I don't think they're ready to pop to that level, are they?
Well, they added J.C. Jackson and they added Khalil Mack to a defense that was already good, just hurt. Now you get Bosa back. You have Derwin James, both healthy, and both are like looking for contracts. So
Bengals completely overlooked. Speaking of knocking on the door,
backwards. The Bengals got there was a lot of luck involved with the Bengals. I think the Browns will be better, and I think the Ravens have a lot to prove. So the Bengals aren't just going to sail through that division.
Holy Anita Marks, man. You're doing a gambling thing here, Lubie. I like it. I like it that you're considering these things.
Well, the one division that's going to suck is I think the Titans are going to take a step back, and the Colts sort of will have a nice free path with Matt Ryan.
I'm not buying the Colts. That's another one. I'll believe it when I see it.
That division sucks. Like Texans are going with Davis Mills. The Jags will be better, but they're still young. Like the Titans are going to take a step back. They lost Brown, the receiver. So now Tannehill's going to go back to being the Dolphins Tannehill. Like I think the Colts have an easy path. That's why Matt Ryan should be able to like figure shit out in the regular season because that division sucks.
Colts, you get a big price on them, 25-1. On the Colts. Yeah. Bengals, 20-1. Unbelievable. All right, we're coming back with more. We'll come back and say goodbye, actually. Never can say goodbye. We're hoping Andy's still with us, man. That sounded pretty serious, Andy. I hope you're okay.
To me this morning. I mean,
oh, yeah? All right. I'm rooting for him. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Can't afford to have too many of our loyal listeners and viewers checking out here. It's 8:56. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
A lot of strange stuff. I mean, we said some things about Bob Kraft here that maybe weren't particularly flattering. And all of a sudden, we were bombarded on our message board by bizarre messages.
Yeah, I got rid of this guy so I can't see him anymore, but I guess he's still there.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. And Nick,
okay.
whatever the hell.
That's the internet for you, huh? I mean, it's a wild world out there.
Weirdo.
Imagine Rod Serling if internet had been around when he was coming up with things like the Twilight Zone. He would have cashed in big on this stuff. All right, we had a lot of fun being with you this morning. We'll do it again tomorrow. We go old school with Tony Segreto. That's always a lot of fun. The great Tony Segreto. And that's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and Catholic Health Services. As you've heard, Tony extol the virtues of both of those fine organizations here during the show today. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I don't know if we accomplished anything. Had the soapbox out early there. What a disgrace. It's easy to paint something as a disgrace. I don't know. This was independent arbitrator, no criminal charges. Obviously, something funky going on. But when Bobby Kraft, I mean, you hit it right on the head, Lubie. When he popped out of that Asian massage parlor in Jupiter, Florida, to hop on a private jet then, I mean, the whole idea of being in some sleazy massage parlor that was being investigated for sex trafficking, I mean, an horrendous...
Come on.
You know, human, just absolute atrocity. And Bobby Kraft is patronizing this joint. I mean, he may not have known what they were involved in, but nonetheless.
I mean, come on.
Not exactly high end, as you were saying.
He's questioned it or leave and go somewhere. Whatever. Look, like Tessler said, it's not our job, and that's fine. But my thing is, be consistent.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And it's Ridley Cat. I mean, he has to be steaming, right? Just seething, thinking, my God, lost a year's worth of playing time and salary, like $11 million because I bet $1,500 on some game that I wasn't even involved in. And all of a sudden, the league thinks that smacks of impropriety, even though they're in bed with these gambling sites.
It's advertisement. See, even our guys are using it.
Yeah.
It's free promotion.
So, the world has got me sugar now. I believe that. And that's the note I'll leave you guys on. And then we'll do it tomorrow with Tony. Have a lot of fun. Thursday, we'll have our Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. And then Friday, a Degenerate Friday. Professor off this week, off to Costa Rica.
Yes.
I think that's fortunate because I know his big board would have dealt with Bill Russell and not necessarily... in a way that we really wanted to feature here on the program. In the interest of good taste, which rarely are we in that mode where we're in the interest of good taste. But in this case, I think it would have been so inflammatory, so ridiculous that, we couldn't allow him to do it. No?
We're talking about poor taste. It's something that I find entertaining and Defo finds totally disgusting. Today at 12 p.m., Mike Mayo's Lunchbox.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Eat every day. So I enjoy it. Defo hates it.
No, I don't hate it. I mean, it's just weird. I don't know. It's weird to me.
Well, because you were taught of all the things that we do that are not professional. That's the one thing we've been.
It violates every tenet of broadcasting that I believe
food
in.
Everywhere, and we do not eat until the show's over. That's just how we are. It's video. He's a food critic, so I don't mind him eating. I do agree with you. Eat, don't talk. I don't mind that. Like
the on-air taste tests and comparisons, I think, are cool.
It's cool. We have video. Take advantage of it. But don't let the food spew.
He deliberately makes it even more slovenly, though. Or maybe he's really like that all the time. I don't know. It seems odd for a guy that was a food critic to have like zero protocol when it comes to any kind of table etiquette. I mean, literally, he's got like stuff. Shit is dripping on his shirt. It's crazy. Anyway, that's entertainment, and that's why we do it.
Right here.
Happy to be a part of it. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox at 12. Yeah, don't miss it. Liverwurst sandwich. There was a time I was into liverwurst sandwiches, Lubie, and then I read the label once on a thing of liverwurst, and I said, "This is like completely disgusting. I mean, it's not even food. That's crazy." I tell you what was a great sandwich my mother used to make for me was the London broil sandwich. She would do a London broil. She was very good at cooking these London broil steaks. And then I would have them on rye bread. And I would bring like 3 of them to Shea before I was selling my souvenirs. And that was at a time where I had a metabolism. And you'd eat like all 3, man. And they were fantastic.
That's a great sandwich.
Fantastic. London broil sandwich. Yeah, steak sandwich.
That's a good sandwich.
All right, we're coming back with you tomorrow at, I thought we were going to say go to a break here, but we're going to into perpetuity here, into the great internet beyond. It was that kind of show today. I don't know why. It was just that kind of show.
I'm ready for football. I feel it. And then the Hall of Fame game will happen and be like, this isn't football.
Now the Finns are going all the way, man. What are the odds on the Finns? I think Tua takes them to the Super Bowl. Let's put a few bucks on that just for.
We should. I don't think it happens, but I wouldn't mind it just so we can make that our year-long.
Wow, are they even on the list? Oh my God! Texans are 300 to 1. Jaguars 125 to 1. Jets 125 to 1 for Eric.
I think they're
the Jet fan.
60 to
Dolphins are 35 to 1.
Okay.
Wow. So you put a stick on the Dolphins. They win a Super Bowl for the first time since 1973. And you may as well take a stick and just put it up your ass, right?
Exactly. It's so hard to see that happen.
Is it still in there? Yeah, I think. All right. We'll see you tomorrow on that note. That's an ugly image. See you tomorrow on that note at 7 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. As we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.